the state capitol is always neat because once you get in there, you know, you're just in a different environment. And it's so neat to be in the state capitol of Illinois.
Cool building,
and we're welding things down today that I helped fabricate when I was 17 years old.
Yeah, that's
in
crazy.
the shop for my father.
That's cool, yeah.
And I mean, I know for a fact we're doing it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat to say, I made those.
Yeah, that is
I
cool.
made those.
That's cool. Yeah.
You know?
Well, joining us today at the table is Mark Selvaggio, President and CEO of Selvaggio Steel. Mark, thanks for choosing to be here today.
What an honor to be here with two Griffin guys and a guy that wishes he could have been a Griffin guy.
Is that this guy?
Yeah, it's Brad.
Right, yeah.
Good-looking guy.
He's like, nope, nope.
The good-looking guy at the table.
Is it always good, like normal for you to not return phone calls though when people call you?
I'm.
Is that a normal thing that like
honestly
you do?
only when they're friends.
So you're playing hard to get.
Now, clients I call back immediately. But when it comes to friends, I do have other priorities.
I'm like, how many days did it take him to call back for the invite here? You know what I mean? Holy cow!
Well, I had to talk to my attorney first.
Right. See what you can say and not say.
Oh yeah,
that's right. Well, all joking aside, one of the things that people have really enjoyed about this, the few people who tune into it, is they love to hear people's stories. Everybody in Springfield's heard of Selvaggio Steel, and probably everybody's heard of Mark Selvaggio, but do they really know the story? And we'd love to just hear about the business, how it started, your role, how you advanced, and ended up in the seat you're in today.
There's not much to it. What's next?
Well, okay, I guess we're done.
How long have you guys been in business?
1957.
Wow. Okay.
So Dad started the company. He worked for Sherf Steel. After World War II, he was in the Army/Air Force. It was one thing. So he was out in New Guinea at the end of the war, and he was a sergeant, and he basically helped put airplanes back together to go back out. One heck of a softball player, one heck of a baseball player, and my father was an amazing sax and clarinet player, and none of the skill set, none of it filtered down to Tony and I. Now, my sister Michelle was a pretty good athlete. And Tony was a great football player. I was the guy that always went in when somebody got hurt. But my brother was a starter. Michelle she would have been a starter if there were sports back then. Yeah. But Dad was a hell of a baseball player, hell of a orchestra person. Wow. And then he came back from the war, started the family, you know, like a lot of people did from World War II. And he worked at Sherf Steel, which was on 9th and Cook for years and years, it was a Boilermaker company. And as it turned out, after a while, he started building railings in the back garage, which was also the place where my grandfather probably did some things for some of the people that he knew in Chicago, and some of the Italians that did things down in the basement. You know what I'm saying? So anyway,
I don't. Could you say more?
I'm not going to say anymore. So as it turned out, Dad, they after Nano decided that business wasn't the business he was going to be in anymore, they put a big piece of concrete over the top of that hole in the basement where things are generated, and Dad started building railing. So after a few years, Jack Scherf, who was actually a friend of his dad's, said, "Joe, maybe you ought to go on your own." And it was a good part of the ways. So Dad started on his own. Selvaggio Iron Shop, and basically started building railing in 1957. In 1960, Uncle Jasper joined him out of Korea, the Korean conflict, and they were both pure Sicilians.
Okay.
So are you getting the point where the Chicago connection and a few things going on? Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
So they really did well, but they really didn't get along that well. And in 1963, Uncle Jasper and Dad split up. Uncle Jasper started Modern Ornamental Iron Shop, and Dad started Selvaggio Ornamental and Structural Steel Incorporated. Okay. They really didn't compete that much. And, you know, it was hard. You know, family's hard for a while. So that split up was kind of tough on the two of them, the rest of us, and the entire family for quite a while. But then after a while, they got back together, and Dad and Uncle Jasper, they got along fine before they passed away. So the thing of it is that Dad started doing small structural projects, and you start growing with contractors. He had 2 or 3 contractors that he was growing with. One of the contractors he started growing with was R.D. Lawrence Construction, and that was the original group that started. It was an offshoot of oh shoot, I can't remember now, but it was an offshoot of another construction company, and Dad started growing with them, and of course, we moved next to one of the owners, Jim O'Danny, in the Little Flower area. So Dad started building stuff for them, and we just grew and grew and grew. So that happened, and he really grew. The last big job he did, he built Fair Hills Mall.
Okay.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, the whole mall, including the county market there.
Okay.
And then his biggest project he ever did was the governor's mansion.
No kidding.
So you had the original governor's mansion back, the north piece that was from the 1980s. But then Dad helped reinforce the roof of that. And then towards the south, you've got a huge part that's the governor's residence and the carriage house. And then Dad built all the fence all the way around the entire governor's mansion.
Wow.
And I was able to even fabricate that when I worked for Dad. When I was 17, I was able to build some of that fence myself.
That's pretty cool.
That is real cool.
So that was the thing that Dad did. That was back in 1969, 1970.
Now, is that at the location you're at now? Currently, is that where your dad?
He started. He left the garage, and then he moved back to Old Rochester Road, kind of south of where Penny's is at.
Okay.
A little building that's not much bigger than your Peerless building right here.
Okay. Yep.
Matter of fact, he could have put that shop on your whole lot.
Oh wow. Okay.
But that's where he started and did 90% of the structure of the governor's mansion.
Wow.
And Fair Hills Mall.
Okay.
So as it turned out, he did all that, and we finished the railing on Dorland Avenue, which is out on the west side of town, right off of MacArthur Boulevard. As you go down the hill, at the top of the hill of MacArthur, by Douglas Park,
Yep.
you take a left on Dorland, and we're the last building on the right. And so he moved there in 1969, 1970, and he always had a dream of steel going straight through the building. Most fabricators at that point, they grew up pulling a piece of steel in and somebody bringing and making all the parts. They'd go out, they make 3 clips, they do 3 plates, they'd go, they'd weld it, they tack it, they do all their painting, they paint it, and then they pick it up with a crane and somebody move in with a truck, they pull it out. Dad had the concept, and he probably saw it in a magazine somewhere where he wanted the straight through shot, kind of the Henry Ford technique,
Sure.
where you bring all the parts and you make the steel and somebody fits it together, and then you move it to another location where you weld it, you move it to another location where it's painted. That today is the same system that my brother and I developed after Dad passed away in 1985. We do the exact same system, but we automated it.
Gotcha. Yep.
So he taught us how to I mean, we started in the shop. My brother Tony and I started in the shop when we were 17, started painting in the back, which is the worst thing. It's the hardest thing you can do, not to get paint in my hair,
Yeah.
And we just grew and grew and grew.
So talking about automation, how much has technology affected the production in your production of steel and what you guys do?
Well, there's 2 parts to it. Number one, production's off the chart compared to what it would have been without it. Number 2, it's created a huge positive safety scenario for our team.
Gotcha.
Because we're doing stuff now that we're doing by hand with drills and punches, but right there, you're right there at it. And now it's an automated robot that's doing it in a chamber, and all the fumes are being evacuated and filtered out so they're clean when they hit the environment.
Oh, cool.
So it's unbelievable, unbelievable. And we've built a very, very automated company, probably for our size, one of the most automated companies in the country for our size.
Sure.
Yep. And a lot of people are catching up to that, but for the most part, we led that from the late 80s. We led that charge in Illinois. Wow. We were probably one of the most automated shops in 1990 of anybody in the state.
No kidding.
Yeah. And then in 1987, we bought what is now a 3-dimensional CAD station software that not only models the buildings, but does the shop drawings for it and the erection diagram so that the erector knows what piece goes in what place.
Okay.
So I'm on an advisory board for the international advisory board for that software that's got probably, I don't know, 20,000 licenses throughout the world. You know, I'm on the advisory board for that, and then I'm also on the board of directors for a Central Fabricators Association, and that's the largest fabricators in the country, down to people smaller than me, and I'm on the board with them also. And we just expanded now. It was pretty much the Midwest. We just expanded as a board. We've expanded coast to coast.
Okay.
So we're going to start taking members all the way from the east to the west coast. We're one of the largest and most well-known fabricator organizations in the country.
Wow.
How many fabricators are there in the state of Illinois and then nationally?
You know, I'll be honest with you, I can't even answer that. I don't know. I don't know. They, you know, Chris, they could average from the guy that works on repairing wagons and repairing tractors, you know, all the way up to people that have 1 million square foot under roof.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, and we're
Gotcha.
23,000 square feet under roof. You know, we're teeny.
Sure.
But we have, you know, 10 to 12 people in the shop, 14 people in the shop. We've got 26 to 28 people for the whole company. But the automation allows for a smaller footprint to be able to do the
Right.
same things that the big guys do.
That is nice.
Yeah.
So
that's
we've been
awesome.
able to keep up with all of our clients' needs, like a Memorial Hospital, Springfield Clinic, all the stuff we've done at St. John's, HSHS. We've done a huge amount of buildings at the fairgrounds. And, you know, we've done almost all the work at the state capitol remodel
Nice.
from the early 60s through today. We're still involved today in the North Wing.
Do you have a really cool project that you're super proud of, or a group of those that you're like, that was pretty fun or pretty cool to do?
Well, I got to tell you, the one that I got to tell you kind of comes to mind. And granted, you can. I mean, the state capitol is always neat because once you
Right.
get in there, you know, you're just in a different environment, and it's so neat to be in
Yeah, I
the
agree.
state capitol
It's
of
a cool
Illinois.
building, yeah.
And we're welding things down today that I helped fabricate when I was 17 years old.
Yeah, that's
in the shop
crazy.
for my father.
That's cool, yeah.
And I mean, I know for a fact we're doing it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat to say I made those.
Yeah, that is
I
cool.
made those.
That's cool. Yeah.
You know, I got to tell you, probably the neatest two things that we've done in recent years. I've got to tell you, Lanford High School is just gorgeous.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And-
And I was going to ask you if you provided all the steel for
We did all the steel for Lanford High School.
Work in District
Are you doing
186.
Springfield High as well?
We're doing Springfield High School. Springfield's probably not as big a footprint as Lanford was. Lanford was a huge undertaking. So a couple things about Lanford that are kind of neat. And we're going to do something for Springfield also. Stevens created for Springfield. He's created the Springfield Senators sign that we're gonna paint on beams. He's created the Senator Capitol for him. So we're gonna make sure that all the beams for over the last phase of that work have the Springfield High School. Very proud to be involved in that. We'll be involved in that. So Lanford, let me tell you about Lanford. One of the neat things about Lanford is that I think the school board was very influential. Guiding that job. I will say this. I've said this on 1450 a million times. District 186 school board. And I'm not so sure now, but when Tony Mars was the president, and they created all this stuff, they've done a really good job shepherding this 1% tax increase and building something that we could all be proud of for 50 to 100 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they've done a great job.
I agree.
A lot of leadership there. I know they're still struggling with a couple of things, but a lot of leadership. So, Lanford High School, we got the job, and Tony and I painted. We painted the last phase of the building that you could see. We painted in the black and orange.
Yeah.
Intermittent beams. Okay, and so we were asked to do Lanford United. So we created that stencil. And then we also created the Lanford Lions. We did that ourselves with the Lions heads on it.
Oh, yeah.
And so we were donating those stencils to Lanford, and we'll be donating the stencils to Springfield High School so they can do whatever they want with those.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So the other thing that was neat about that, there was two other parts of that. Number one, I created a football that's about this big, about this tall, that we painted on our beam. And on that football are the initials of my brother, sister, and I, because Michelle was the prom or the homecoming queen. So she was there. She was on that field.
Oh, wow.
my two nephews, Tony's two boys, and Michelle's two boys.
That's cool.
And that football is painted looking out a Memorial Field forever.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So our initials look out on the Memorial Field, and it almost points exactly to the north 40-yard line where I separated my shoulder against Eisenhower, which I wish I had that play back. That's the only one I want back, okay, when I did get in. So I'm one of the few people that separated the shoulder. It was dangling when I got off the ground. I didn't know what happened.
Ouch.
I kind of grabbed it. I popped it back in. And you know what Griffin guys do? They get back in the huddle.
They just keep going.
Damn right. I wasn't coming out for anybody. Now I wish I had
you
that.
weren't.
I wish I had that play back. That play, I wish I hadn't hit that guy so hard.
Right.
Anyway, yeah. I hope it hurt him. I'm not sure it did. So anyway, the other thing that was so important about that job, that was really the critical part, is it also says Joseph Selvaggio, class of 1942.
Cool.
So my father graduated from Lanphier High School, and I wanted the kids at Lanphier, I wanted people to know that a Lanphier High School student built
Yeah.
their high school.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I'm proudest of that than anything else.
That's neat.
So yeah, we did that, and I might put on there that Tony and I and Michelle took driver's ed at Springfield. I'm not sure yet.
Pretty cool.
You know,
Yeah. So, what are the challenges of taking a big job like that on and still being able to take care of your other clients at the same time? Because being a small business, we face those challenges when we get really busy on big projects. Is that a challenge?
we've got an unbelievably solid workforce, both in the office and the shop. And some of our guys have been there over 40 years. Okay. Matter of fact, some of them dad hired.
Okay. Wow.
That's
amazing. Cool. Yeah.
So, we work a huge amount of overtime every year.
Gotcha.
Every year.
Yep.
So Springfield doesn't, it's not a blue collar town. It's a white collar town.
Oh, yeah.
So the problem is you can't find people that want to work in a blue collar industry when you're a state city, a state run city.
Sure.
So it's hard to find people. It's hard to get people to show up. It's hard to get people to pass a drug test, which they have to.
Yep.
At Selvaggio Steel. And that includes marijuana.
Sure.
And you might say, well, why? It's legal. Well, you know what? I have a responsibility to the people that work for our company and their families to protect them. And you can't be standing next to a guy that's high.
That's right.
Right.
I don't care. And so, the funny thing is, I know what it's like to have a few cocktails and not be able to talk.
Right.
I don't and never have done the other stuff. So I don't know what that's like.
Right.
But I do know that I don't want it in my shop.
Right.
Yeah.
My brother didn't want it in the shop. So we basically just, that's something I've had people turn down huge raises and benefits because they want to continue to smoke marijuana.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that's so immature.
It's a shame. Yeah.
So anyway, it's okay. You can do whatever you want.
Well,
Just
and
don't
I
do
can
it
only
else.
imagine the potential safety issues you could get into fabricating steel.
Well, I mean, the thing of it is, you can hurt yourself, but I
Yes.
don't want you to hurt
Hurt
anybody
somebody
else.
else. Exactly.
And the plus of the thing is, when you weld something, it needs to be right.
Yeah.
So back 17 years ago, we became AISC certified, American Institute of Steel Construction certified. That is equivalent to the ISO 9000 that you would hear about in our industry. So we're actually certified. At the time we were certified, there was only 15% of the fabricators in the country that were certified. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Since then, when Obama came into office and they started spending money on state jobs and federal jobs, it became mandatory to be certified. So I think it's probably 50, 60% now. But there were only 15% in the country that were certified. Wow. So we've been certified for 17, 18 years. And that elevates our quality control
Yeah.
way beyond what non-certified shops are doing.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it's, it costs money, but it costs money
worth doing
to be good.
Yeah.
What you do.
Agreed. Amen.
Yep.
So
And when I think about the community over here, I mean, there's a group of folks and quite a few. And, coming from Decatur, you were one of the first guys I met over here, and you were very kind to take me under your wing and help introduce me around. But when I think about the community, I think of I think about you and what you do for the community. Talk a little bit about what you're involved in maybe why you do what you do. I know you're from here and you take pride in the city, but I feel like you're in a lot of places.
Well, I could tell you, Mom and Dad were a lot of places, and believe it or not, I'll go back to my father. Back when I was playing football, I remember my father being on the sidelines from freshman year on, watching me practice. Now I didn't get in as much as Chris Hembrough, just so you know.
I didn't get in at all.
Yeah. You know, so but I was there and I made it.
Yeah.
And my, you know, and freshman year wasn't so good, but by the end of sophomore year, I got it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It takes a while to realize what it's like to get hit, and then you realize this is kind of fun. Now I wish I had some of those back. Okay,
Yeah, right.
Because sometimes I really got hit. You know, so Dad started selling squares at the football games my junior year to raise money for the football team. So it was 50-50, and it was $1 a square, and he'd give $50 a football team. Well, that money ultimately started the Booster Club at Griffin High School. So Dad started that. So you think about that. Dad was doing it, and Dad went to Lanphier, but he wanted his children to go to Sacred Heart and to Griffin.
Wow.
And Mom was a Sacred Heart girl, too.
That's cool.
So as it turned out, you know, that kind of thing. Dad was in the Roman Cultural Society. I joined the Roman Cultural Society. After I got out of the University of Illinois, you come back, and I joined with my good friend Mark Petrelli at the time was heavily involved. He was with the state ultimately, not Mark Petrelli from Troxel.
Okay. Same family or
Different
family? Gotcha.
Well, anyway, one day he asked me, and we were playing softball. You know, we were softball every summer and every break we played softball. You know, I mean, we were in tournaments all over the state and stuff. Never behaved. In between games.
We would have never known.
That does not surprise me.
We had a lot of fun. Softball we weren't very good, but man, we had a lot of fun. So anyway, you know, he asked me, he says, would you consider joining the JCs, Springfield JCs? I said, well, what's the Springfield JCs? Well, it's a young men's civic organization, and it basically is for leadership training. It's developed for leadership training. But we do it through community service. So I went to my first meeting. Al Klunik, Troxel guy at the end. His father started the company, and then he went to Troxel, dear friend of mine. He was the president when I joined, and we started going and doing projects. And I do remember the first project I was a chairman of. So I joined in like May, and I'm the chairman of the senior Christmas party. And I had organized 12 buses, an ambulance. We're going to take them all out to UIS. We're going to take them out there. I had a Santa Claus lined up. And that morning, I went to early mass. And that morning, we had a blizzard. So I was coordinating everything from home, trying to get everybody picked up, trying to get them safely there. We had 250 seniors fed them.
That's cool.
Coffee and everything else. So as it turned out, when I walked in, though, and I walked in about maybe 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, the thing was going to start at 2, and one of the JC women, one of the wives of one of the JCs, and her job was to get the coffee going. She just started reaming me for not being there on time. And I mean, I'm coordinating everything, man. And what I learned is that you have to delegate.
Sure.
And so I hadn't really delegated at that point. And I do remember cleaning up the place at the end myself. Bad idea. So later that year, in late December, early January, I was the JC of the month because of that project.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I've still got that. Got that. Matter of fact, Al Clooney, before he passed away, God bless him.
Yeah.
Signed it for me because he forgot to sign the son of a gun. Anyway, so as it turned out, I was JC of the month. I went on later on to be, I think I was a director, but then Mark Petrelli became president, and he asked me to be vice president of membership. Well, we were good at signing people. And so we, over the course of a year, went from just kind of an average chapter to the largest chapter in the state of Illinois.
Impressive.
Now, that was like 350 members. And my wife was the vice president of the JC Women. And so I remember when she told me that she was going to run for president that year. And I thought to myself, I can't do that. I just can't do that. I can't do that. But I do remember my father got the Boss of the Year award at the governor's mansion. And I remember him saying to me, why don't you run for president? Oh, yeah, that just I wasn't a true leader. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't bad, but I just wasn't a leader. And so I kind of blew it off. Well, later in that year, my wife's running for president. And at one point, I said to her, I can't stand it. I in my chest, in my stomach, I got to run.
Yeah.
And so Mary, my wife, of going on 44 years, were both presidents of the JCs and JC Women the exact same year.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome.
She was the largest JC Women chapter in the state. We're the largest JC chapter in the state. I ended up being one of the top 40 presidents in the United States at the National Convention, and ultimately then went on to become a little bit more involved with the political side as my buddy Mark Petrelli decided he wanted to run for president of the state of Illinois presidency, which he ultimately won.
Oh, that's great.
I was his political strategist.
So he won in spite of you.
So you
He
are,
did.
you are a leader for sure. Yeah.
So we ended up electing three presidents out of Springfield in 6 years when I was the political analyst from Quincy to Springfield, all the way down to Litchfield, all the way north into just short of Lincoln. So we elected three presidents out of Springfield in 6 years, which was never been duplicated. Three.
Yeah,
in
pretty
six.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but what happened is that being a leader, when you're a leader of people that are not being paid, you learn how to talk to them. And I never was very good at talking to people. Even to this day, I upset people just by telling them what I think, But you learn how to negotiate. You learn how to talk to people. You learn what responsibility is about. And you know what? When it's all said and done, I was responsible for 350 members in our chapter, and we were also named the #1 chapter in the state that year. We got the Giesenbeer Award, which is unprecedented for our chapter. Never had it before.
Right.
I was one of the top 40 presidents, along with Mark Petrelli, in the country. But you learn leadership, and we were involved in the committee. I was actually on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce. I was a non-voting member of the board. I'd walk in there late every meeting. I barely put a tie on. I was there with Mike Houston, and I'm talking the big boys, right, back then. But to be honest with you, I got to know people. They got to know me. And when Dad passed away in '85, and I was 29 when I took over the company, my brother and sister, my sister was 27, and my brother was 25. You had to grow up fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? I tell people my University of Illinois education in engineering, civil engineering, really gave me the basis for being able to do the work I do inside that shop. Being a president of the JCs and being involved in this community, that's what makes you a leader.
Yeah.
That's how I can walk into a place and not be shy of taking the microphone.
Right.
So when I walk up to a microphone, the first thing I say when I get up there is not, I don't do this very well, or I'm shy. I usually say, I was told it was only 15 minutes, but I should expect to be up here longer than that. So I'm not afraid of the microphone, and I'm not afraid of telling people what I think.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid of telling them what I think, and this is why, and I show them why, and I show them how to do it. Now I expect you to do it.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, in today's world, you'd be stunned at how many people look right through me like I'm not there.
Right. No, I'm not stunned.
Yeah, right.
We deal with it every day.
Not many of those people work for me anymore.
Yeah, I bet they
right.
don't. Yeah.
I can only imagine.
yeah.
So were you not really involved and instrumental in the South Winds Park?
Well,
I think about Butch. You mentioned
Yeah.
Butch
Yeah.
earlier, and
So
he
I met Butch.
stopped in
Met
and-
Butch. You know, a bunch of us were going. That's when I met you. I met Butch. I think before I met you, we kind of went to Vegas. And you were the new guy on the block and came in. And I still remember that paper top hat you had in the pool. I wish I had a picture of that. I do remember that.
Yeah, I believe
you
it.
were like, oh, I do
I
remember
bet
that.
you do.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Let's
yeah.
move on.
Yeah, it was kind of the New Year's thing. Yeah, it was funny. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we did.
We had
a lot of fun.
So I met Butch, and we became friends. And he was good to Tony, good to me. He didn't know Michelle because she passed away in 07. But he was involved with the park.
Yeah.
So a couple stories. Number one, he walked in one day. He says, "Hey, I found something we want you to build in the park." I said, "Okay, what is it?" He says, "I want you to build a windmill. We want a windmill." I said, "I don't like windmills. I don't like windmills. I despise windmills. I don't believe in windmills."
Did you?
I did.
Yeah.
He says, "Okay." So, and he used me. He used me, you know. So he's responsible for making that park what it is today.
Absolutely, yes.
I mean, he's a dynamic leader in this community.
Yep.
Right.
He and Dave Brailer, they're like frickin' frack, you know.
Yep.
For friend indeed.
Yes.
So anyway, so he brings a book, opens a Springfield book, and he shows me these arches. And these arches were taken down from the Columbia World's Fair in Chicago in the late 1800s, brought to Springfield, purchased by a person in Springfield, and put on the four major corners on Monroe and Washington Street in Springfield, 5th and 6th. And they were decorations. So there's pictures of them. And I said, "We'll build that for you. I know how to do it." So Hanson Professional Services, some of the dear friends, we asked Pecori, the CEO,
Sure.
and Dennis Wilkinson and Gary Clack, and I met. Satch didn't. He was doing his own thing. We met, took some pictures of some on 5th or 7th and Washington Street. There were pictures of these arches. Then we went to the brew house, have some beer.
Yep.
And I sketched out on a napkin that Dennis Wilkinson today still has at Hanson's in the file how we could build this out of in our shop and how it would be actually put together and built the way it was. And they designed around that. They added these concrete things at the base, which upset me. But honestly, it's the best thing they ever did because it looks gorgeous. So Tony and I built that, and we built that out of what they call weathering steel. And the weathering steel was designed to rust. We didn't want to paint it. So it's designed to rust and rust once. So we took that stuff, spent extra money. And then all of a sudden, we got all of it done. And Butch says, "Well, who's going to put it up?" I said, "Well, I didn't. That wasn't part of my deal." He says, "Yeah, it is." So Artie Lawrence went out and
surprising.
oh man, oh yeah. And then when the lights had to come up, my brother Tony and I invented a way to attach those lights to the steel because they didn't have a bracket designed for that. We invented it. So we actually got the lights up, and I had to calculate where the lights were based on the two different radiuses so that the exact strand would end up at the top and the bottom at the exact spot. Took some work. So then we had to install those. That was interesting. So whole thing, and Butch and I are working on it, but in the center, and it broke, but we're going to replace it. It basically is a medallion in the middle. It's the Selvaggio Historic Arches. We had naming rights, which is big.
Yeah.
It's called the Selvaggio Historic Arches, and below it said, "In memory of Joseph and Helen Selvaggio."
Wow.
So we dedicated that to our parents.
That's great.
So the best part was, a year or so later, Butch is going to have this big party out there, huge party, right? And he has to raise all this money for the party. And I told him a long time ago, "You know what, Butch, we've got tens of thousands of dollars invested here.
Right.
Tens of thousands. We donated tens of thousands.
Right.
We're proud of it. And you can see it. We like seeing our stuff.
Sure.
We're proud of it, but we're done.
Yeah, we're done.
Don't call me unless you need it." So one day, he and I are walking out. So we're out there, and Butch is talking about everything else. And on the way out, he asks me for $5,000. I said, "Butch,
Yeah.
my brother and I told you, my brother, we're kind of tapped here.
Out. Yeah, right.
No, I need it."
Yeah.
I said, "Okay." So I'm walking to the car, and all of a sudden he gets a phone number. He gets a phone call, and he pulls away, and he's on the phone. "Yeah, okay, I'll be there. Okay, fine." So I'm in the car. I'm really not in the car yet, but I'm standing there. I said, okay, Butch, what was that all about? He says, well, I got to go in for 4 stents tomorrow.
Oh.
I said, you're kidding me. No, he's already got other issues, but I'm going for 4 stents. I said, oh, man. Oh, I'll be okay. So I get in the car. I roll down the window. I said, I have one request of you. Sure, Marky, whatever you want. I said, since you're going for 4 stents tomorrow, don't tell anybody I committed to the $5,000 until you make it out.
That's pretty good.
That is good.
So he made it out. We gave him the $5,000, and then about a month later, when the thing was going to happen, we ended up with 2 unbelievable. I don't know if it was the tornadoes or some windstorms. And the next thing, the whole party was wiped out. He never brought it back. The park district pocketed all the money, and it is what it is.
The rest is
it is what it is.
yes.
It's Springfield. So that's true story.
I believe
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So the other thing I can tell you, the neat thing is we got involved with building bridge components. So if you drive down Cook, South Grand, Jefferson, Madison, and you're going down under the bridge, all that railing, all that cable rail,
Yeah.
Selvaggio Steel built all that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So we're proud of that because that was our venture, the first thing into actually doing state of Illinois bridge work, and we are AISC component certified.
Okay.
So that was another thing that we got of our certification. So
Nice.
and
cool.
so anyway, we continue to grow.
Yeah.
And not so much financially, but continue to grow what we can do and who we can do it for. We're doing a job right now that we're drawing that's going to be installed on top of a building in Texas, Temple, Texas. It's Reynolds Consumer Products over in Jacksonville that makes hefty trash bags.
Yes.
Well, they also have Texas, and we do work down there for them.
Gotcha.
We're working on a building in Iowa for another fabricator right now. We work for other fabricators.
Yep.
So
the future looks bright for you guys.
well, I think right now, the problem we have today is, number one, the interest rates finally choked off the private work.
Yep.
And it's a little bit dicey right now.
Okay. Gotcha.
Obviously, the federal work with Trump doing what he's doing is starting to get a little bit timid. And I think we're probably in that 6 months to 9 month area where we don't know where we're at.
Gotcha.
So we're going to struggle a little bit, but we've done this before.
Yeah.
And then you come back roaring.
So strong. Yeah.
And honestly, I'll be honest with you, that's happening every year. I mean, during COVID, we protected everybody. We did unbelievable things.
Yeah.
I had one guy, I won't tell you we were inside, but maybe we were inside. So we got them all together, and we're having this meeting because everybody's mad because some of the guys, now we're in a steel shop, right?
Right.
Some of the guys are complaining because other guys are spitting on the floor in a steel shop.
Yeah.
And we got, and the same guys complaining start lighting a cigarette.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So we started cleaning everything. We asked people to stop spitting on the floor. We started cleaning every 2 hours. We had a team go around cleaning everything. We separated everybody. We did something that not many people did. At the time, we went to the corner pub a lot once a week, and unfortunately, Westwood's kind of closed in that period. Corner was going to try to make it, so I came up with an idea on Wednesdays. I called Tim Timoney, and I said, "Look, I don't know if we can do this forever, but our guys really aren't bringing. I mean, this is bad for everybody. People are scared.
The COVID deal.
Yeah.
People are scared.
Yeah.
20, 21, 22, people are scared.
Yeah.
I said, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to place an order for lunch for everybody in our company. And we'll just have it delivered here. I want everything separate. I don't want big grab bag. But we'll order lunch. And we had to work it out because at one point I had to ask them to deliver it.
Sure.
But every Wednesday for 22 months, 4 days a week,
Oh, wow.
we had food delivered from Corner, and then I incorporated Papa Frank's and Saputo's on Friday for every single for 22 weeks.
Wow.
For 22 months, 4 times a week.
Impressive.
We spent almost $90,000 on food for our team, making sure they had food twice a week.
Wow.
It got to the point where I stopped ordering. I just didn't need any food anymore. Right. And it was kind of bad when I found somebody eating a Saputo steak, breaded steak. That's when it ended.
that's
It
a
ended
cross
pretty
line a
fast.
little.
Yeah.
Always
So anyway, we did that
yeah.
for our employees, and if anybody's, if their brothers, uncles, dogs, owner had COVID, they got to stay home, and we paid them.
Yeah.
Now we did get some support from the federal government, so I'm not complaining. But that was after we already initiated all the food.
Right. Right.
That's when we'd already initiated all that. So we gave back, and we took care of our employees. Nobody ever got laid off.
That's great. So speaking of food, what do you have a favorite dinner spot or a restaurant that you love to go to?
It's kind of funny. Obviously, when we walk into Saputo's,
Sure.
I started there when I was 13.
Right. So you have yeah.
My parents were my father, Lanphier, the Saputo twins, Frank and Joe Saputo, were Lanphier. They were best friends. And one night on a Thursday night, Mom and Dad were at Saputo's like they normally were with the Calandrinos and Licatas. And, at one point, the Brinkmans, this is Todd's father, they all stood there, they ate, they drank. Well, they came back and said, I'm an 8th grader, 13.
Yeah.
I started high school when I was 13, pretty young.
Wow. Yeah.
So they said, hey, do you want a job? I said, okay. So that was Thursday, and Saturday I had a new white shirt, a black tie, and black pants, and I became a busboy at Saputo's. Now, I will tell you, over the next 4 years, that tie never got tied more than one time. I always just undid it.
Yeah.
It never got untied, ever. So I made it from busboy. I love being a busboy. I love working, a big night was getting $6 in tips, $6.
Wow.
But I got to tell you, working there, I put my checks, which is $2.35. But I worked every Friday, every Saturday, and every Sunday. So I didn't go out in high school. Even when I got my license, I didn't go out. I was working, which is probably a good thing.
Sure.
But that ended up getting me through Smithfield College in Illinois, and ultimately got me through the University of Illinois.
That's great.
Because I paid my own way.
Yeah, that's terrific.
And then my tips I spent. And I can tell you there were times, matter of fact, Frank Saputo, one day, and I was 15 years old, and he's taking me home because he would take me home and drop me off for Dad on the way, because we live by Little Flower. He'd drop me off, and then he'd go home at the lake. He says, "So what are you doing tomorrow?" I said, "Well, Frank, I got driver's ed tomorrow." He says, "You're kind of young, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, they're going to fit me in. I don't drive till November, and this is like June." So he says, "Have you ever driven before?" I said, "No, sir." He pulls his Lincoln Continental over on 6th Street. He says, "You're driving me home." I said, "Oh, no, I can't. No, you're driving me home." So I drove Frank Saputo's Lincoln. The first car I've ever driven was Frank Saputo's Lincoln Continental.
That's pretty cool.
From Saputo's all the way home. That's the kind of relationship my parents had. So anyway, started working there, worked all the way through 4 years. Ultimately, they put me in the kitchen. I asked Frank for a raise. He says, "No, go back to work." Because I wasn't getting the $6 anymore. And I left there for about 6 months, worked for 2 other Italians, Pete and Charlie Salvo at Quality Furniture, moving furniture. So I worked for 2 Italians in the restaurant business, 2 Italians in the furniture business. And then ultimately, when I was 17, started to work in the shop for my father at Selvaggio Steel. So my brother's pretty good craftsman, and he's pretty much an artist, right? I'm the type of guy that takes a screwdriver out because I need something to hammer with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Tools are they're just an intermediary to what I want, Yeah. So I remember junior year coming home. It was December 23rd. It was my first semester at U of I. And I can tell you, I wasn't prepared. Even though I was prepared from SCI, I wasn't prepared for the University of Illinois in civil engineering school. It was a whole different deal, man. So I was fried. I was tired. I made it. but it was hard.
yeah.
It's hard. Engineering school is hard. Yeah. So my hair, I never got a haircut. It was down to here. So Dad made me come to work on December 23rd. And I remember getting in the forklift about 6:30 in the morning, which I'd done for years and years. And I bet you Matt's probably done this, and he doesn't. Maybe you don't know this or not. But anyway, I remember just as I'm flipping the hair out of my eyes, I backed the forklift through and ripped out 2 of the overhead doors
Yeah,
I bet
he's
your
done that.
son's probably done
He
some
has
stuff.
done
in-
some things like that.
Well, he left some of your equipment on our shop for almost 9 months. I begged him to pick it up. They wouldn't do it. I begged him. So
I
when
think he
I'm
took off like a Papa Frank's. He ran the Papa Frank's sign down. Not Papa Frank's, but what was it? Papa, or was that pizza place?
Papa Murphy's.
Papa
John's.
Papa John's,
Yeah,
yeah.
Papa John's. That's right. In a cube van. Ripped the top off of that. It was lovely.
Yeah.
I love that call.
So I remember Dad coming. Yeah, no kidding. Dad came out of the office, looked at me, looked at the door, shook his head, walked back in. I got my hair cut that afternoon.
Yep.
And I worked the 24th too.
I love it. I believe
So
it. Yeah.
every single break and every single summer, my father had my brother and I working at Selvaggio Steel.
Yeah.
There was my brother and I both were in the union at Selvaggio Steel.
Yeah.
So when a union business agent looks at me and starts telling me how I don't understand what the guys are going through,
You understand. Yeah.
that's when the words that I gave up for Lent come out.
Right. Yes.
Are you following me?
I understand.
And
We
you know
do
what?
follow you.
And I'm really good at it.
Yeah.
I'm really good at it. So, as I've told our business agents, and I think our employees know this. This is our company.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to run it the way we want to. You, Mr. Union guy, union business agent, you can stay or you can go. I don't care.
Right.
But you're not going to tell us what to do.
Good for you.
Yeah.
But our people, they respect us. We respect them.
Mm-hmm.
They're good, solid people, the good, solid workforce. We got a great team right now. We're very, very fortunate. And you know what? We trust them. They trust us. And they know that my job is to protect them.
Yeah. Good for you. That's
So, you know what? It goes back. And, I have bad days.
yeah, we all do.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I bet
And,
you.
know, but guys, when I make a mistake, I apologize.
Yeah.
So, but I'm quick to rip somebody when they need it. Because, when I see, hey, especially somebody doing something not safe,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
oh, man,
Yeah.
don't do that. Don't do that. So when my brother retired about a year and a half ago, September 22, going longer than that, everybody was afraid I was going to be in the shop running it because they were scared to death of me. I said, I don't think I'd be afraid of me.
Yeah.
So, you know what? It's been a good thing. We've got a very successful business. This community has been good to us.
Yeah.
It's all about the community, man.
Yeah.
I say it every day.
Yeah.
It's been good to us. They've trusted us. We're very involved with Springfield Clinic, very involved with Memorial Medical Center, very involved with HSHS. They've trusted us.
Yeah.
And we've got some great clients, O'Shea Builders, Artie Lawrence, Evans Construction. On occasion we get a job from Valentine Construction. We're doing work right now with Core out of Peoria. They're good people. You know what? We're a trusted entity in Springfield.
Oh yeah.
And as I tell people, there's a lot of the concept of making a lot of sausage. You make the sausage, and well, there's a lot of things that aren't right until we're done with it.
Yeah.
But it's right when we're done.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We make mistakes, but we fix it. And that's one thing I'm proud of. We don't walk away from anything.
Yeah. Well, that's why you're trusted so much.
Yeah.
For earned it. Earned
Whether it's my mistake or somebody else's mistake, we fix it first, and then we work on what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we try not to do it again. But we fix it.
Yep.
And I'm proud of that. I don't walk away from anything.
So we want to respect your time.
Yeah.
So, but I
My
always
time.
ask folks
Your time.
this question. So
We could talk for another hour. I have no problem.
If I did the math, yeah, we know. If I did the math right, you took over the company after your father passed away and you were 29 years old. So I think you said you're 69 today. Best looking 69-year-old guy, you think you said.
I know.
Around. I know. In 40 years, all the lessons you've learned, if you could give your 29-year-old self one piece of advice based on what you've learned over those years, what would that advice be?
Man. Just be able to look people in the eye and don't turn back. Look them in the eye, tell them what you're going to do, and then you make sure it gets done.
Yeah, your word is your bond.
Yep.
And that, and I got to tell you, I think we chatted a little bit downstairs.
Yeah.
That happened a couple times early on when Michelle, Tony, and I took over.
Yeah.
My brother and sister and I took over. We buried Dad on Saturday. Sunday, we found out we owned the business. And we had a week from hell, including a fire in the office that they thought was an arson.
Yeah.
And telling the bank that if they didn't want to do business with my brother and sister and I'd find somebody else. And this is the bank that my dad had a relationship with.
Sure.
Yeah. For
And
all
you know
those
what?
years.
That was pretty important because they needed to understand that my brother and sister and I were going to be the responsible party for this company.
Sure.
And we were going to either make it work or die.
Yeah.
And you know what? My brother and sister and I, we made it work.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that we didn't realize, and I can finish with this, from 1985 through over 2000, and really even through 25, the construction market has been solid. My dad didn't see it for 15 years. He struggled for 15 years, and he worked every day to keep that company going for his 3 children.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
Every day.
Yep.
And he sacrificed, and my mom sacrificed for that business to keep our name. And I'm so proud of my family. And we're proud of the work we do in this community.
Yeah. Well, the community's certainly glad to have you, blessed to have you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I suspect your mom and dad are
Very proud.
just a little bit proud of you guys.
I hope, because honestly, we they taught us a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Dad didn't teach me. I can't hit a softball. I'm a D player on a good day on a golf course. Matter of fact, my friends don't invite me to go to Naples anymore. I mean, in Aleo and Crumley, they would die. They would die. The best story I got is one day Crumley and I were partners, and then Steve Alton and Mike Aleo were partners. Kevin Crumley from Troxel Financial, if that's the name anymore, they change it weekly,
Yeah.
But anyway,
I think it's Evergreen, isn't it?
yeah, it's ever Tide Green, I call it. Anyway, so we're sitting there, and at one point, Kevin Crumley, he presses, he rolls, he adds, he double downs, and so at one point, I owe Aleo $200.
Oh yeah, that sounds familiar.
And I'm just sitting there going,
Kevin.
oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Because I'm a D player that doesn't play any better than that. You know what I'm saying? A D player with a lot of strokes, you're hoping he plays better than that, and I don't. Now, my new hip that I'm getting on March 20th could change that forever, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, as it turned out,
Don't count on it.
Yeah.
Kevin Crumley grabbed $20 out of he said, give me $20. He walked up to Aleo and said, here's $20 from Selvaggio. You're not getting any more. And that's the way
great.
I love it.
I love it.
That's good. That's good. Good stuff.
yeah.
Well, it's sure's been fun to have you on
Sure
here. Thanks
has.
for,
Yeah, thank
for
you.
carving out
Yeah,
the
for
time.
coming
for
in.
What are you doing for the next hour? We could do it again.
We're not doing this
We're not
again.
doing this
Do you
again.
want to hear about the Sicilian side of town?
And thanks for your friendship. And
Yes.
I mean,
We
you're the
cherish
best.
your friendship, both of you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.